Yo, what's going on, everybody? First, want to thank you for your time and attention in watching this video, and hopefully it helps somebody out there. Today we're going to be talking about, this is mainly directed for dye sublimators, but it also can be used for people who do heat transfers or heat transfer vinyl, HTV, because those papers and films, they use a medium pressure. So today we're going to talk about how you can learn the pressure of your machine by just feel. This press does have a digital readout. This one here is the Geonite DK20S, so it's a 16 by 20 swing away. And but I've never really used the digital readout. When I first got it, you know, it had to be calibrated because out the box, you know, I was like, some of my substrates were like medium or heavy pressure, and I was like going to town on it. And it was like, this doesn't feel right, you know, and it was only registering like a 4, and it would like flicker to a 5, right? So I'm like, this can't be right. So within the first week, I contacted the supplier or the manufacturer, one of those, and they gave me a PDF and how to calibrate it through the digital readout. So I did that a couple of times, and I still couldn't get that comfort zone because I was still doing heavy pressure, and it was still reading like maybe a 6, maybe going to a 7, and but I was like pressing really hard on it, and it just wasn't right. And so anyway, since then, within that first month, I just started doing my own. I just started figuring out, you know, I just kind of used my common sense of what light, medium, and heavy would be, and the results were coming back good, were great. And let me see if I can get this off of here. And you know, so that was, you know, back in 2012. So I've been getting great results since then, just using it by feel. And so I'm just here to try and give you a little tip or a little guideline on how to figure out, you know, between your pressures. So we're only going to do pressures. I do have mouse pads here just so that I'm pressing on something and not just the bottom platen. But I'm not going to have the machine on. There's no need for it to be on. We're just going to be dealing with the pressures, and I'm just going to show you the pressures. I'm not going to go into it and kind of like tell you what substrates go with what or anything like that. But I will say very light and light basically have their own lane, because very light pressure you're gonna basically use it for. I have only used very light for fabrics. So if you're going to do 100% polyester t-shirts or shorts or any kind of fabric material, you're going to want to use very light pressure, and you're probably going to want to use other tools to help you eliminate press lines and all that. But that'll be another video for that. But yeah, very light would be your fabrics, and then your lights would be your thin products or thin coatings of polymer coatings, and then so forth. So we're going to start with a very light. Let me just out the way, and let me see if I'm in the shot first. I might have to turn this a little bit. All right, so oh yeah, you're good. Okay, so very light, you're going to want to use one finger. Okay, and this is just to get it down of how it should feel. If you're smaller, more petite, you may use 2 fingers. Okay, so we're gonna bring the top platen down, and we're gonna use one finger and push it down. That should be good enough. Let's check it out. Yeah, that should be good enough. One finger right there. I bring the top down and bring it down like that. That should be well enough, good enough for that there. Okay, so don't just look at my finger, look at how my arm is going down, if you see my muscle straining here, if I'm going down on pressure, if you see my body, if I'm putting body weight onto it, that's mainly going to be with the medium and to the heavy pressures. But kind of take all that into consideration of how I'm applying this pressure. If you're smaller or petite, like I said, you may need 2 fingers for that very light. But that's basically what you're going to do, is do that 1 finger, and that's it. If you're doing 2 fingers and it's too heavy, you need 3, you may back it off a quarter turn. Go back and lift the platen up about a quarter turn for that very light. And so now that you figured out with 1 finger or 2, let's do it with 2 hands and see what it feels like with 2 hands. Okay, we're going up and down, and that's very light, and that's what you want. Okay, because you don't want to be like having to do 20, 30 products or even more, and doing it with 1 finger all the time. You don't want to create any carpal tunnel or any kind of issues or wearing out your finger, having to do it, every time 1 finger or 2 fingers. So learn it with the 1 or 2 fingers, and then learn it with your 2 hands, and then you already know, you already figured out, okay, this is how it feels with 2 hands. Okay, so that is very light pressure. So now we're going to move to now we're going to move to light pressure. Okay, so I'm going to probably turn it a half a turn for me, and I'm going to try out light pressure. Light pressure for me would be 2 fingers. So very light for me would be 1 finger, maybe 2 for you. Okay, going to light, I'm going to use 2 fingers and maybe a quarter turn, a little heavier. Okay, for you it might be 3 fingers. So I went a half a turn actually. So I'm going to bring this down. I'm going to use 2 fingers, and that's a little bit more pressure that I used than very light pressure. Okay, so now let's do it again with 2 fingers. Okay, that seems about right. Now let me go back and let's see what. And that feels good to me. And just remember, and I may say this over and over again, this is just a guideline. So learn it from here, and then tighten it if you think it needs to be tightened more. Loosen it, and go by a quarter turn each time. If you think it needs to be tightened or loosened. But this right here with 2 fingers, maybe 3 for you. I'm going to use 2. Okay, and that's good. See, if I did this with 1 finger, I'm having to, you see how my fingers going like that when I go down, because I'm doing enough with 1, but I'm having to use my whole hand to go down for that light pressure. So 2 fingers is light. Boom. That's it. So now that I know it's 2 fingers and I got that feel, I'm going to press it down with 2 hands, and I'm going to get the feel with 2 hands. That way in the future I can learn it with 2 hands and know what light pressure is. And with light pressure, you're going to mainly do probably thinner substrates or thin polymer coatings on those substrates. And usually the thin coatings have or will give you an orange peel if you do it too heavy. So you want a light pressure. You don't want to go into that medium range or even close to it, because you'll get more of an orange peel look when you pull your product or your substrate out of that press and take the paper off, because you don't want to press that paper, the fibers, into that coating more than what you have to. You just want to make that contact, and that firm contact, and that should be good enough. So once you figure it out, learn it with 2 hands. Then once you learn it with 2 hands, then you can just keep doing that over and over again. But do this with an actual substrate. So learn what light is, 2 fingers. Okay, now test the substrate. Put an image on the substrate. Put it in there if it calls for light, and test it with 2 fingers. Okay, actually test it with 2 fingers. Press it, the dwell time, let it go through the whole thing, lift it up, pull it out, and if it looks good, it looks perfect, then you know those 2 fingers worked for you. If you use 2 fingers and maybe it's faded or it's not bright enough or whatever, you may need more pressure. So use your 2 fingers, or not use use the pressure with your 2 fingers, but maybe close it about a 1/4 turn. So make it tighter about a 1/4 turn, not a 1/2 turn, but a 1/4 turn, and then do that. Use 2 fingers. Okay, that may be your light pressure. Okay, so for me it's 2 fingers, and that's perfect. So now we're going to go to medium. Medium would be 1 hand. So we're going to go a full turn, maybe a turn and a 1/4. Alright, so let's go. So I'm probably going to go a full turn from there. So 1 hand, and don't worry about the turns or whatever, because that's going to change when you go from substrate to substrate. So we're going to go. Ouch. Shoot. Okay. So we're going to bring it down. 1 hand. It's a little heavy. Let's back it off. Perfect. Now we're going to learn it with 2 hands. That's perfect. So it just depends on what you're going to do. Whether like a mouse pad or an aluminum panel. You may use the lighter end of the medium for your mouse pad, your soft substrate. You may use the higher end, which is the tighter end of the medium for your harder substrates, like your aluminum panels and stuff like that. So like for this here, with 1 hand, that's great for your medium. And for my feel, I would use this with a mouse pad. Now if I was going to put an aluminum panel in there, I would go a little bit tighter than the 1 hand. So I would probably go maybe an extra 1/4 turn. And this is going to be tighter. See how much more pressure I put on there. All right. I don't know how well you can see how much more pressure I'm putting with just that 1/4 turn, but yeah, that's perfect right there for probably like a metal, maybe like a Chromolux metal panel or something like that. But yeah, your medium would be 1 hand, or maybe a 1/4 turn from that 1 hand to make it a little bit tighter for your substrate. Alright, so now your heavy substrates, your your thicker, maybe your hard panels and stuff like that, uses heavy pressure, medium to heavy, just depends. We're going to tighten it up a little bit more, and your heavy pressure would be 2 hands. Okay, so with me, I have this type of handle right here. Some of them have the 1 bar coming out with the round handle. It would essentially work the same way. I'm using this right here, the center of this, as my testing with the 1 finger, 2 finger, 1 hand, 2 hands. Okay, you could do the same thing if you have the 1 handle bar with the 1 handle with the bar, the round bar on it. Okay, so with heavy pressure, and I've already turned it a little bit, we're going to use 2 hands. Okay, and that's perfect. That's perfect for your heavy. So 2 hands would be your heavy pressure. Alright, so once you figure that out, well, if you have a handle like mine, then you can hold it normal with 2 handles or whatever, like on this bar right here, and do it like that. Now that's heavy pressure right there, and that's good enough. You don't have to crank it with medium or heavy pressure. I've seen videos where this neck right here, where they're pressing the substrate. It could be like a mouse pad or a koozie, and man, they are cranking that sucker. I mean, they're going like this, and they're actually putting their whole weight, and you can hear the handle go, pow, and this neck is like, they're like dislocating this neck. It's crazy. It's like you don't need that much pressure for your substrates. I mean, it's ridiculous. If they tell you that's what you need, then they're wrong. I mean, seriously, you do not need that much pressure for certain substrates. So remember, very light is one finger. If you're a smaller petite person, you may need 2 fingers and maybe a little bit of turn or something like that. But very light and is in its own lane. So remember that very light is in its own lane, and light is in its own lane. So very light, 1 finger, maybe 2. Your light would be 2 fingers, maybe 3 if you're a smaller person and you need more leverage or pressure power. Your medium will be 1 hand, and your heavy would be 2 hands. Sublimation is not an exact thing, okay? It has a tolerance to it, so, or a wide tolerance. So your medium, if I do mouse pads, I can go from a light medium to a medium heavy, and they will probably come out the same. I've done it before, and it just depends on your artwork as well. How much saturation is in that image? Sometimes if you press it harder, you may get more saturation, but you also may blur your image. If you do it too light, you may not get enough saturation, and you may get blurry image because the outgassing is leaking out from the paper, from the substrate, in between the paper and the substrate, and you're going to get that blur around the image. So, but the variances, you have some leeway to your pressures. But yeah, this is already going almost 20 minutes. God, low. Okay, so that's pretty much it. That's all I wanted to share with you guys in trying to learn your pressures of your press without a digital. For those of you who have a press that does not have a digital readout, this is a good thing, a good tip to go by to just help you out. And that's pretty much it. So hopefully I'm not missing anything. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe if you want to see more content. Ding that little bell, and yeah, we'll talk to you next time. Again, thank you for your time and attention, and we hope you're having a good day printing. Peace out.